I took a class in college called medical microbiology.
I need a game in hot tub.
Sorry, my thing was acting up. I loved how she described the bubonic plague, and I will never forget it.
It won't be if it's funny and cool. If I read it. Copy.
So anyway, so she was like, okay, so there's these little like ticks, and they go and they bite a rat who's infected with the plague. So they bite the rat, they get the blood in their stomach, and they go move on. Except for since the plague is in there, the blood coagulates, and so it's just this big clot sitting in their stomach, and it can't digest it can't move through. So the rats are ravenous. I mean, the ticks are ravenous. They're hungry. They're like, I have food, but like I'm still hungry, so they go and get on another rat, and they start biting on the rat like ravenously, like chomp 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 chomp. I'm so hungry. But since they're like now in the rat's warm body, it kind of warms up the blood and makes it not a big clot anymore, and they end up barfing it into the open wound onto the rat. And that's how the rats get bubonic plague, and the rats bite the humans, and there you go.
Yeah, there's also a lot of people not washing their hands.
Yeah, what the fuck, cat bot? You fucking bitch.
And then the Black Death, the Bubonic plague.
Yeah, so it's called the Black Death because it clots your blood vessels, and those body parts start dying because your blood vessels are clotted, so you smell like death, and that's where it called the Black Death, because you literally smell like your body parts are dying.
Catbot, you're a fucking grammar Nazi.
Yep.
No, it was Russian. He put Russian down. That's collusion.
So the closest thing to that is probably what is known, I think, simply as bacterial meningitis, and they have a vaccine for that, but that's what ends up happening. You end up with these big purple spots on you because you're clotting off in those places, and most people end up losing parts of their body, like their limbs, because of it.
Fucking war zone shit.
Right? I'm sorry, I've got a biology degree.
But like small cases around the world.
Isn't what? I'm sorry? I mean...
Bubonic, well, not like the bubonic plague disease still going around. I thought there was like cases in the U.S., just like a few cases every once in a while.
I don't actually know if the bubonic plague still goes around, but that'd be interesting to hear. But, you literally, like, kill off parts of your body because, like, your blood has clotted in your blood vessels.
They used to have to drop a UT magazine to kill somebody.
Do they use antibiotics for that? Because I heard they have it, but they use like antibiotics.
I don't really know about that with the bubonic plague. I know bacterial meningitis, yes, you use the big antibiotics. But I think it was that, or maybe one of the other, plagues that went around, that people blamed it on the Jews because of their eating and cleanliness habits that they had from the Old Testament caused them to not get it, because they cleaned everything, they prepared everything real well, to the point that they were protected actually, and so everyone's like getting sick, but not the Jews. They're like, oh, they must have done it, those Jews, it's their fault, that's why we're sick.
That's why you called it a five-head.
They didn't think about the fact that those people were actually using clean practices, maybe actually washing their hands and not eating with shit on it.
Yeah, I heard about that. What's the on your hand that is the norm?
I don't know, but one of the most horrible things I think I ever heard of in college was when they were talking about babies used to die a lot in the hospital, and that you would have more likely to survive childbirth if you weren't in the hospital back then. And what doctors used to do is they would chew their tobacco, and they would spit into their hands to make their hands sticky to catch the baby when it was delivered. And then, oh, God forbid, magically, somehow all these babies end up getting ridiculously sick and die from this horrible shit. Oh, come on now. Wear your mask, wash your hands.
I heard doctors
wash your hands.
Didn't think their hands were dirty. That backtrack. Well, I don't know how to say it. I know like a lot of people are like, my hands aren't dirty. I'm a clean person or something like that.
Yeah, so another thing that I really enjoyed hearing is that, like, if you had surgery in the hospital, you're almost likely to die. Back then, until this one doctor, I don't remember his name, I should remember his name, decided that it had to have something to do with infection. So he basically infused like alcohol into the surgical room. So everyone's eyes were burning, any open wounds were burning, but his patients had better outcomes and less infection because he was infusing alcohol into the OR room. Now, granted, we progressed into a way better position today than back then, but that was one of the first advances in sterility.
Like buyers and all that.
Had to do with what?
Buyers, kind of the company buyers and all that.
Oh,
I
I
forgot
don't
the
know.
name of it, but that led to like, I think it was like, I know who you're talking about because I was reading listening to it, but yeah, the guy was just like, oh, just like put alcohol everywhere, and then that led to people just like, holy shit, we need to actually start making some like premium shit, so we made stuff like, and all that, and like hydrochlorified or something.
Nice. Yeah, well, I mean, that's why Florence Nightingale is, the mother of nursing, because one of her primary goals when treating soldiers was making sure they got sleep, making sure they had baths, and making sure they had clean, healthy meals. And that was the beginning of nursing, was basically just tending to basic needs of people that people were ignoring back then. They were like, I don't know, they didn't even think cleanliness was that important. Like, oh, look, this guy's got this wound on his leg. Let's just let him lay here in this like filth bed and see what happens. But no, she when the people under her care who got baths and meals and sleep did better than the others, and so she is now the mother of nursing.
Well, it's like back then people are stupid, like they didn't realize cleanliness was a thing because they didn't know anything about germs.
Oh, germs? No, we can't see them. They don't exist. It doesn't exist if you can't see it.
The whole concept of germs never existed until like even after a while, after the first fucking microscope was made, people didn't realize like, oh, there must be germs. No one realized that.
Don't call me princess.
Don't knock on their fucking idiots.
Yeah, it was a very hard pill to swallow learning about that. I had a lot of fun in all of my classes back in the day.